Hey guys, anybody there? Nobody's there. Okay, because I've never done this before. Hey Dave, what are you doing here? Can you hear me? Dave, can you hear me, buddy? Can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me or not. I've never done this before. This is my very first time doing a live thing. You know, I looked online to see different things, but yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. So please let me know if you can hear me. I've got no idea. Okay, good. So what? There's 3 people here, and yeah, I'll wait just. I've only been on like a minute and 20 seconds. Hey, Knives and EDC, welcome to my very first live video. I'm going to be reviewing this guy. I'll see if anybody else is going to join by the 2-minute mark, which is 30 seconds away, and then I'll start. And you can just take a look at it for now. Anybody got great plans for this weekend? I'm going to go see my grandkids tomorrow. So that should be fun. Alrighty, we're just going to start. I don't know how many people are going to join because I didn't announce this at all. We'll just see what happens. This is the Sanrenmu 311L. I don't know anything about a 311, but the 311L, I guess it's for the large version. We've got over 3 inches in this blade. And it's a classic slip joint mechanically, but done with some very modern touches. We've got studs. That's pretty modern on a slip joint knife. And we've got a lanyard hole thingy right back here. So we've got this pin. Hopefully you can see that. Now I couldn't fish 550 paracord through there, but smaller paracord than that can be quite easily fished through there, or you know, a leather thong or something. And you got a lanyard option, which is quite nice. And we've got a pocket clip. Now this is what Sanrenmu calls their ambi pocket clip, and it's a squeeze. You squeeze the pocket clip and give it a wiggle, and you can take it right out. So it's basically a spring tension that holds it together, and you can stick it in either side. You got holes on either side, so it's an ambidextrous, 100% ambidextrous slip joint knife. Now, when I first saw this thing, it reminded me of a Sanrenmu that I reviewed way back, I think in 2017, the 7112. Now, the 7112 looks almost exactly the same, except for it's got aluminum scales, and it's got 70 millimeter, 2 3/4 inch blade. And this guy's, 3 1/4? I'll do the measurements in just a little while. Cutting edge is just under 3 inches. The blade length is just a little bit over 3 inches on this guy. So, yeah. Now, this is made for the domestic market in China, which is why we've got the Sanrenmu symbols right there, the Chinese ones. Hey, let me just add a little bit more light here if I can. All right. Clang, clang, clang. As disorganized as I am, I don't know if that's going to be enough. Oh, of course the battery's dying on my lights as well. Oh well, a little bit more light when I hold it sideways. Like I said, this is for the domestic market. That's why it's got the old Sanrenmu symbols right there. But you can get this on AliExpress. What is it right now? It is $16.79 US, which is not bad. That's on Amazon. Sorry, I got that wrong. On Amazon USA, $16.79. I'll add a link later on for that, a referral link if you want. You can also get this on AliExpress, and on AliExpress it comes 4 different ways. This is the special way. Only one seller has got this. The other ones have, I think, black, gray, and you can either get a PVD coating or this bead blast finish. Three main colors, but this one's a special color that I got, so it's like $1 more, $1.50 more, or whatever. And that's why we get the Ivory G10 and the brown screws, the brown thumb studs, the brown back spring, and the brown hardware back here. And so then it turns out into being like a little thin budget gentleman's slip joint, because AliExpress has got it, what, 1670 up to 1837, depending on the colorway. So this colorway is 1837 US. If you're in Canada, it ships straight to Canada, what, 25 to 27 Canadian bucks. And so it's easy to get your hands on if you want it. So what do we got? We got, for a blade shape, it's not exactly a straight back. Let's see if I can show it with a ruler back here. So it's not, let me put it just on the blade. Well, I must have had something that wasn't quite flat before when I tested it. So it is a straight back. Or maybe I was up on the handle a bit. So straight spine on this thing, and it's almost full thickness to about the inch from the tip, and then it tapers down to the tip. 12C27 stainless steel, which is decent. Rockwell 5657, so it's not a super special stainless steel. It's a really budget stainless steel. It's pretty close to the bottom of the list of what I recommend. Now, I do not recommend the super cheap stainless steels. So it's still pretty durable. It's got decent edge retention in my books. Works well. Thin at the edge, about 17 thousandths of an inch thin right here, 0.44 millimeters. I'll do the rest of the measurements later on. Decent sharpness choil. Now what it does have going for it as a slip joint is right here we've got this 3 little milled jimps in there. So when I have my hand right at there, at that spot, if I go to close the knife, it sort of bites onto the finger and doesn't let me close the knife onto my fingers. Whereas if it was smoother, it might slip over a little easier. So really nice touch. Being a slip joint, you're not going to be stabbing into things anyways, unless you want to risk your fingers and hand. Mostly it's a slicing and cutting kind of knife, or sneak up and do tip work if you want to. And it works really good for all of those things. Works really well. And with this thin edge and decently sharpened, quite sharp from the factory, in my testing, the blade was really good. A couple other things I like about the blade is, well, it's not really about the blade, it's about their decisions. There's not a lot of badging on this. And where it is, it's all on the Ricasso. Right there, 311-GT, that's for this colorway. And then it says Sandvik 12C27 right there. And on this side, it's, their Sanrenmu logo. And that's it for logos. The handle. We've got a 3D milled G10 handle here. And it's a little thicker right down the middle. You can see the grain on it. And hopefully this camera's picking this up. I'm using an old cell phone, not my main cell phone. My main cell phone, is right here. So it's supposed to have a better camera than my main cell phone does, because my daughter-in-law gave me this cell phone when the battery stopped working. So I've got it hooked up by USB to a battery pack, so it'll just keep running. But I can't use it as a cell phone. But hey, I'm being distracted again. Thank you, ADHD. You're my friend. We've got little cutouts right here for the accessing the thumb studs. It's a tiny little touch, but it helps to get in there and deploy the blade. And you can see I'm just letting the blade snap closed. These thumb studs, you can see a little bit of wear on the bottoms of them right there. Those thumb studs are hitting the G10 here and serving as stops for the blade, so you don't risk the blade smacking down. And I'm going to put this back on. Easy to move that pocket clip. Before I show you something else, I'm getting distracted on. I was going to talk about this. Here's a really old school slip joint. Now, if you may have seen the review of this, this is the Vendetta, and it's made in France, the way slip joint knives used to all be made, and many still are, because this is a new model. Not a new model, it's a It's new from the factory in 2022, I think it was. But anyway, when you close the knife, there's nothing to stop that edge from slamming into the steel. And you might be able to see it if I can hold it just right, if it'll glint. There's a little bit of a roll right up there, just in the last, oh, maybe 3/16 of an inch. There's a little bit of a glint there, and that's because the steel right here, that's where the blade slams into if I let it go too hard. And that's too hard already because the spring's so strong. So you don't risk that with this because it's got those stop pins, the thumb studs acting like stop pins. So not bad. Handle shape, it's a really classic shape, the exact same shape as the 7112. And the belly here, and then it comes back. A lot of knives have this kind of handle. If it was round, it would look like an open L style handle, you know, with that little extra flare back here. In my hands, like the width, it's a little bit in the extra large range, and there's loads of room on here. So even big hands are going to like this, but it's small enough that smaller hands are still going to find it quite useful. So for EDC, I quite like this thing. And it works well. Back spring strength is fairly strong. You see that spring coming up. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, there you go. And it's got a rounded bottom, so it doesn't really have a half stop. It just is open or closed. Now, a lot of people really like half stops on their slip joint knives, but in the middle here, there's so little spring tension either way that it just sort of, you can move it a bit of a ways and it's just going to stay there. So it's not that risky. Just, you know, when you go to close the knife, make sure your fingers are out of the way. And you can just hear how light that is. Let me see when it takes over. Just that last little bit. So, and then it's just not a lot of tension pulling it closed. So it's not a super strong back spring like the old school ones are, like this thing. It's a modern take on an old slippy. Let's do some of these measurements. The dimensions here. The weight of this, it's about 55 grams, 1.94 ounces. So just barely sub 2 ounces. The sharpness from the factory, 135 bests. So that's sharper than most knives that I reviewed. That's very common for Sanrenmu. They just do a really good job sharpening. It's still got a crispness to the edge. Not sure if the mic's picking that up. Oop. Yep. Get a tiny little cut doing that. Of course, the skin on my thumbs is fairly thick, so it's not a problem. But yeah, that edge, and that's after my testing. 12C27 just is a decent steel. It's not great, but it's a decent steel. The measurements here, so from the thumbnail to thumbnail, so the cutting edge length, that is 74.3 millimeters, 2.92 inches. And so the end of the blade to the closest spot here on the G10, 81.9 millimeters, 3.22. So just under 3¼ inches. The blade thickness on the ricasso right here, 2.44 millimeters, almost 1/10 of an inch. It's 0.096, so 96,000ths of an inch. It is a thin blade, and of course, it's designed for light use, right? Yeah, the look of this knife it really attracted me to this thing. That's why I call it a really budget gentleman's folder, like really budget. So the rest of these measurements, the blade depth, this way 17.2 millimeters, which is 0.677, so just over 2/3 of an inch. I know we don't do inches and thirds, but there we go. The thickness behind the edge, it's about 0.44 millimeters, like I said, 17,000ths. The handle length, pocket clip sticks out a little bit, so not counting the pocket clip sticking out. What do we got? 109 millimeters, 4.29 inches. So when you open the thing, you've basically got 4 inches, a little over 10 centimeters of space to grip this thing, plenty. The thickness of the handle scales right in the middle, 10.4 millimeters, that's 0.409, so, you know, 0.4 of an inch, not bad for the style of knife that it is. The handle depth, it's biggest right in the middle, 20.1 millimeters, 0.79, so a little over 3/4 of an inch, but not much. And when it's closed, the widest point is actually right at close to the middle. I would have thought it was up here, but it's visually deceiving. It's right about here, 21.9 millimeters, 0.862. And the total length is just barely over 7.5 inches, 7.52 inches, 191 millimeters. So there you go. So you guys got any questions about this knife at all, or just any questions in general, and I'll try to answer them. And I was hoping I could find my 7112 because I carried it for a really long time. Those are still available as well on AliExpress, and I'll put a link when this thing goes into regular video mode. There'll be a description. I'll put a link to those. Those are, what is it, $15 right now? $14, $14, $15. They got the same steel, just a tiny bit smaller. Yeah, like I said, they're 70 millimeters, which is 3 3/4 inches, 2 3/4 inches of blade. So if you want it under 7 inches and you don't mind aluminum, the aluminum on those, I don't have a color printer, so I couldn't print out a nice color picture. They've got these ridges that go along the whole length of it, like valleys. Is that a Barlow on the table? No, this is, it's called a Vendetta. It's, I reviewed this a while back, quite a while back. You could search for Vendetta and you'll find the review of this. It's a French-made knife. It's also got 12C27, made by Le Sabot in France. So it's handmade in France. And I guess, you know, it's sort of an assassin's kind of knife. It's got a big enough bump right there so that you can hold your finger behind there. But you're never going to want to stab. You're going to want to, you know, cut down, always keeping pressure on the blade, right? But it's really got that stabby kind of look to it. It's got such a strong back spring, a little bit of file work, that it won't close very easily. So, yeah, Vendetta, kind of cool. I was showing that earlier. This thing's got protection from those thumb studs. You slam it closed and it doesn't hurt the cutting edge. Whereas the really old school stuff, if you slam it closed, the cutting edge hits the inside of the handle and often damages the blade. So, yeah. The engraving on this guy, yeah. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they do it with a stamp when it's hot, or if they do some acid engraving of some kind. Or do you mean the file work? Not sure how they do that file work either, but probably with a file. But it's got corners in it, like little 90-degree edges inside the steel, not going all the way past. Really cool. Oh yeah, yeah, that file work. It's not perfect by any stretch, and this is bone, by the way. If you didn't see this video, that's bone, ox bone or something. It's a nice old school company, Le Sabot. You can check them out. Knives in France, knives from France, knives of France. There's a store in the United States that sold this to me. I'll try to put a link down below when this thing goes live. Knivesofrance.com. Or go to my channel page and look for Le Sabot, and you'll find these, and I'll have a link there for this knife if they still have it in stock. So I like this. I was really happy carrying it, and blade's not scratched up anywhere, but it's not a heavy duty knife. I didn't do a lot of heavy work with it. I would prefer a satin finish or a stonewash finish. It's got that bead blast finish, which means it's kind of like sandblasting, but it's really, really fine material that they blast on there just to give it a little bit of a sort of sandblasted look. But I think they use plastic beads, like hard plastic beads. Yeah, quite interesting. Thank you very much, Dave. And there's 4 people left, and I got 4 likes. So, yeah. I'll post this live onto my channel, so if you think somebody else deserves to see this, you can send them a link. I'll try to do that before too long, because in about an hour, my wife's home from work, and then we're getting ready to go see our grandkids. So thank you so much for stopping by, guys. Thanks for checking out my channel and my live feed. My very first time. Should I do it again? Maybe. We'll see. This way I'm editing, I'm reviewing a knife and I don't have to edit the video. I kind of like that idea. Have a good one. Bye for now, guys. And remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. Thanks, Douglas. Bye for now, guys. Now how do I end this thing? There we hit that.